So it's not allowing me, it's basically this my user Noman PC / Noman. It does not have this maybe the rights or the group. You see that it says that there's something wrong with that one. So it's not creating the real login. So let's continue with that one. I'll have to just look into this issue much more. But let's see the other one, how to create the users and how to just work with those users. And let's see if the users are also creating problem, then we can just look into some of the potential solution. So for the guidelines for the strong passwords, it's basically it cannot be blank, null, or values password, or admin, or administrator, or sysadmin, because these are all the security concerns that the security team, they make sure that your passwords are not very predictable. Even though in this real advanced world, there are lots of password hacking things available, like, there are this brute force attack that they make. They have got the files of the commonly used passwords, and you should not be surprised to see your own password in those files, because they just try to create every combination of that, and then they make a brute force attack on that one. So that's why and forget about some of the typical passwords that we try to keep. It says that you cannot keep very common passwords like password or admin or administrator. So cannot be name of the current user or the machine name. We cannot have that one. Must contain more than eight characters. Must contain at least. So these are, we are talking about all that the password that we are setting up for the SQL Server authentication. So when we are creating SQL Server authentication, we will be using that one, right? So that is the password rules. Must contain at least three for the following: uppercase letter, lowercase letter, numbers, and non-alphanumeric characters. Anything from the hash, from the percent, from that, etc. From that and percent, it can be anything. So use create login statement to create new SQL Server login ID to create a new login ID from Windows account. This statement was introduced in SQL 2005. If you don't specify a default database, when you create a login, the default is set to master. If you don't specify default language, the default is set to the language of the server, unless it's been changed. A password we specify for SQL Server login ID should be a strong password. A strong password is not easy to guess and can easily be hacked. A password can have up to 128 characters. So, it can have 128 characters, by the way. If you include must change option, SQL Server will prompt user for a new password for the first time. So you remember, you have seen that, in some of the security, some of the companies, or if you go somewhere, they will first of all ask you to change the password, the must change. So they will just, allow you to the user. So the check expiration option determines whether SQL Server enforces password expiration policy. If there is any expiration of the password or not, so that is checked by the SQL Server enforce. So the check policy option determines if password policies such as strong passwords are enforced. These options are enforced if SQL Server is running on Windows Server 2003 or later. It's very less likely that you will get somewhere Windows Server anything less than Windows Server 2003. Rather, we have got some advanced servers these days. So how to delete a change your login ID? So again, if we have some IDs that we want to delete, we can just drop login name. The syntax for altering them, if you want to alter them, of course, the alter password or alter thing, and we can just drop that one, or we can even disable some of the users, right? So we can disable. And right now, since our users is not working, login is not working, we'll just see that one. How to work with the database user? There's another interesting one. And again, if that also creates a problem, that would be so for database, to each database maintains a list of users that are authorized to access that database. The list is distinct from the list of login IDs that is maintained by the server. So that is basically this list is maintained by database. Keep in mind. So if you look at if I just show you one of the thing, if you look at this code, for example, so if you look at this code, you look at that, these are the statements that are used to create users. We use the create user command, this one, create user command statement, to create a database user. On this statement, you code the name of the user, which typically is usually the same as the login name. So in that case, what happens is that you don't need to specify the login name. This is illustrated in first example. If you look at that, the first example, if you look at that one, we'll just show the example over here. it's over here, create user John Doe, for example. So we are not specifying the data. So login name. So basically what happens is that it just creates that user over there. So it's usually, it has to be the same as the name for that particular one. So right. So we'll just, we can just create some users, for example. Let's go there and let's try to create some users. And why not? Let's create this user John Doe. Right. So let's create this user. John Doe. Let's create that. And I'm creating that not for the master database. Let's go into the database that we have, for example, sys database. Let's create that one over here. So it's not a valid login, or you so again, why it's not doing that? Because it says that it is not a valid login, by the way. And so it's not creating a user for that particular one as well. So, that is some problem that I am just, facing. And again, I try to have that login because, we saw that in that one as well. So if I just come here and if I say, for example, and I create a user here, John Doe, I don't know because, it's and database, default database is this one, but I'm going for my database, which is SIS. Right? So left the default language. You look at that. That is the problem. It's not creating the login, and that is really causing an issue. And I was just thinking, where in the Windows NT name, given the complete name domain/user name, it will be asking for the domain/username, and that is what this is all about. And I'll just try one more time that one. Create login. And if I say, for example, Norman PC / Norman / John Doe, for example, and I say from Windows. Let's see that if that creates this one. Same one, the Windows NT user or group and Norman PC, Norman John Doe not found. And that is something I don't know. I'll have to just Google this error now because this is really becoming a problem for us because it's not allowing us to create users, by the way. So that is, we'll have to first see that why it is not working. Let me just quickly find out, maybe Stack Overflow something. Windows NT user domain user not found. Yes, that might be the solution. Stack Overflowing. Okay. It's something like SQL Server Active Directory. We'll just see that. Hmm. This looks like much real problem to near problem to ours. Are there errors in our system? Event login, server log, and all the ones occur when we do CRM installation Windows Server 2008 R2, which is under the domain hosted. No, it's not like that. Still, that is not our required one. Mhm. Mm, okay, let's see that. This is the workaround that they are mentioning. 15401. Is that the same error that we are getting? 15401. Yes, that is the same one. Let's see that. So to SQL Server, this is SQL Server, valid group. Okay, and then which command you are talking about, Hitesh? Okay. Yeah, you want to check which what. Yeah, so as I was mentioning, this is the user I have. It says Noman PC / Noman. It gives the domain. You say that I need to try that one out. Okay, I'll do that one for with you. So it says okay, Noman PC / Noman. Let's say that. I'll just do that in the same exactly the same form. Mhm. Intention does not work. Let me. You see that it's giving this one. Does it work for you, Hitesh, by the way? Just for my information. Okay, John Doe. I should just remove the John Doe and try that out. Okay. Oh, so you see that it says that it already exists. So if I want to create a user, like if you want to do that. So for example, if I say that create user and I say Norman, for example, let's say, and if I execute that one, you see that? Or if you want to say that, for example, if I create that one, Hitesh, Norman PC / Norman, for example, create user. Um, okay, by super user, what do you mean by super user? Okay, okay. That is interesting because I've just done. Hmm. It looks like there is something seriously wrong with the security because it's I've done that. It's this SA you're talking about, right? Yeah, I can understand what you're saying. So, you're saying that I need to log in, or maybe Can you unmute yourself for a second, Hitesh? Is it possible? Just give me a second. And Hitesh, can you unmute yourself for a second? I don't know.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So did you try that one out with this SA user?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and it works, you say.
Sir, I enable that because that would permissions goes that essay.
Okay, just let me try this. I'm not sharing my screen right now. Let me just do that. Yeah, I was just thinking, it's like my user is not allowed to do that, right? The user does not have the right uh,
Yes,
permissions.
sir. The permission goes to essay, so that was.
Mhm. And what is the password for SA, Hitesh? Is there a password for that?
So it will like by default. Like if you want, it will you have to change it, but it's by default.
Okay, just give me a second. Let me see that. So here I do not need to enter anything, any password right over here. Do you see that, right?
Yes, sir. Connect.
Okay. Hmm. Okay, login failed for user SA. You see that it just does not connect for SA on my side.
Yes, sir.
Okay, there's something, maybe. Let me see my services one more time, maybe. Sometimes SQL Server Express is running. SQL Server Agent is disabled. Okay, this. You see it is disabled here. And okay, let's see now, because it might be that is the. Hmm. There's some serious problem here. So you see that it's not working for me SA. I even started that one as that thing as well. So browser, SQL Server, US Writer. It's not getting that one. Let's see. Okay, that's interesting. Mhm. You see, this looks like 15401. Yeah, you're right. Maybe that is that might be another. Okay. If I connect it with the Windows one, it's not connecting to Windows. It's very interesting. Hmm. It's really problem today. Let me just do that. It's taking very long and just starting that one. So Ritesh, would you is it possible if you can share your screen and show us as you are running these commands? Because I don't know why it is not working somehow to me. Hmm. Interesting. Now it's not even running the SQL server. Okay, you're on a Mac. Okay, right, no problem. Oh my God, there's now something happening with the SQL Server Express. It's not allowing me to restart, I'm trying that one. Ritesh, do you see that? It's not even allowing me that. That's the problem. I'm trying to do that, but I don't know why it is just, even it's not, you see, it's not allowing anything at all here. You see that? I think I'll maybe, let's see if I can have, because services are not fine. And it's posing a real serious threat today. We never faced this before. You see, it's not showing a start or anything. And here I have just made it automatic delayed, or manual even. Okay. Okay. So you say that I need to close that one. Right. Let's do that as well. It is
Sir,
still
I
there.
think your system needs to be restarted. Maybe that will work.
Yes, I think the last resort is that. I'll try that one. So you guys
Yes,
be
sir.
here. I'll try to just, come back with restart.
Sure.
right, so I'm back, and I have just done few steps. Like again, I have just given that authentication, both SQL Server, like I've given a authentication, but I think that it is not going to work this way because so I just did that. What you were mentioning, Hitesh, that give it a authentication. Like I first of all, if I just use a SQL Server authentication, it's not working. If I just give it a Windows authentication, let me show you what I've done in previously, like before. So look at that. I just went into this one, properties, and then security, and I just allowed the SQL Server Windows authentication, right? So it's it's almost done, right? And if I just come here and if I disconnect it and if I connect
Sir,
again,
your screen is not visible.
oh, sorry, sorry, Hitesh. So Hitesh, like in summary, it's not working. So if I show you, like I've just enabled SA and like the SQL Server as well over there, but it's not working. So if I just come here and I say SQL Server authentication and I say SA, look at that. I try that out and it does not do that. And the reason behind that, which I understand, is if you see that for my users, if I just show you security and the logins, in the logins, this SA shows this like cross. It means that it is basically being disabled or something. If I just go to the properties of this SA, um, so I have this over here, and I don't know. So provider and password is there. So password is there. What is the password? That is interesting. There is some password attached to this one, right? But I never set it up. So, but what is that password? Because I don't have. I have not set it up. But what is that password? That is a good thing to know because it's not showing the. There should be a default password maybe of SA. Let's see if it is. There's a default something or not for Postgres. Is hmm. Okay, it's asking for new password. Yes, it also says that one. Um, okay. Essay and click on properties, type new password.
So maybe, sir, here we can set our password and do that.
You want to say, okay.
Yeah.
So let's do that. Let's set it up. Okay. Now come here. I've just set up the password, but it still shows me. Anyhow, let's see that. Let's connect that one to my SQL Server SA, and I say you see, it's not saying that, previously was also, it was not saying that password is wrong. It was just making that. Okay. Yeah, it needs restarting as well. Why not? Let's try that one out.
Yeah.
Let's do that as well. Okay, interesting. This has really caused a real fatigue today. Okay, and I want to just, run that with SQL Server, give it SA, and give it password. You see, then I could during the login process, provider, shared memory provider, no process in other end pipe, by the SQL Server. I think there is this is so now this is it says that, so look at that. When I'm giving the right password, maybe it's giving the other error. Maybe it's not. Again, I'm giving the right password now, even though it's not connecting. So I think there must be something seriously again, and I told you I've worked with that Windows application before previously, and I've worked with that no problems, and I've created these users a lot of times. I don't know what's going on right now because it's just users, and by the way that logins, we have created a lot of logins over here. If I just show you, for example, in the logins, I think this was the login that I created by myself. And so, yeah, so, but anyhow, what's happening is, I don't know what this one is basically, it has a cut or something. If I just say new login, for example, in SA, let's see, and I say, for example, on ABC, for example, something like that in the master database. So you say that create field login Naman ABC because an exception occurred. Naman ABC is not a valid Windows entity. So it says that you need to have a complete domain name, which if we just give that, even it's not doing that. And if I create a new login for Naman PC / Naman, and if I say random user or random, let's create that one. And you see that it say that it's not valid Windows entity name given the complete name domain / username, and which domain it's asking. If we have already looked at that one, if I just come here and I give it, for example, Naman PC / Naman, oh, sorry, / random /, and if I create that one, Naman PC Naman random, it says that not found. User or group not found. So it does not find this empty users, and that is quite interesting because now it's becoming very interesting because as I told you, we have got a lot of that. This is the login name here, and server rules, public sysadmin. Hmm. This is my server. Okay. These are server rules. Database connect. Bulk admin, disk admin, process admin, security admin. Public is there. So we'll use to grant server-wide security privileges. It's public. Let's show what public means. It's not showing that. And the user mapping to the public is, for example, to SIS. and the user is anti-server win management. Okay, let me just see that. So I'm sorry about that. It's never happened again, before. I don't know what's going on here over here, and I'll have to look at, maybe that's something that I'll have to. Okay, if I just go to my AP database, for example, for a second. Here, if I create a user, say for example, Alan. And then we don't have permission. You see that? It is something, and it's not in starting anything. There's something, seriously wrong. So Hitesh, are you able to just create the users as well and do everything as you mentioned on your MacBook? Did Hitesh reply? I didn't see a reply. Um, Oh, you're doing that with the something else. So that's a different thing, different story. Yes. All right. It's just giving that same error. Alan is not a valid login. Hmm. This is one hint. Let me just try that one out more. Security logins, SA, what does it say? I'll click on the properties, status, okay, properties, and the status, and enabled. Let's do that. Just make it one more time. Start the server because, it might be. There are lots of policies that are not implemented unless it is. Not at all. It's not accepting that one as well. So there is something especially wrong with this, and I'll have to look into this one. It's like this is not going through. Again, I told you that, last we have done a lot of time this one, and we never had that much of the problem. I don't know what's wrong with this today, and I never had this kind of problem before. Uh, and that is, I think, already. Hitesh, I think it's both enabled. Sorry, what is that? Look at that. Hitesh, it is enabled, right? Already enabled that. So it's not like that one. And again, as I said, that I never had to do that before. And hmm. Okay, so I'll just give it a last try. And if that does not happen, I'll stop it for today and I'll have to just, find out. I'm just giving a last try, and by not sharing my screen, I'll just give it a last try. If it does not happen, I'll have to just reformat this lecture and, we'll have to replan that one. And just bear with me. I'll have to. I'm just giving it a last thing, Hitesh, right? So Hitesh, you see that I've already set up all those setup things, and but still it does not give me that option. Okay, I'll talk about that. Quiz is not today. I'll just talk about that. Just give me a second, and I'll talk about that quiz as well, quiz thing as well. Don't worry. Hmm. Okay, looks like I am able to find something. Let me just see that if that really works. I have got some statement. Aha, yes. So looks like hmm, interesting, very interesting. Okay, looks like we are finally there. Oh, it's but why was not it working? I'll just check that one. I'll get back to you because I got and where did I get that one? I'll just talk about this. Okay, got it, got it, got it. Just give me a second and I'll be it's now working and I know what was now I know what was happening. Let's give me a second. All right. And I'll just make sure before I switch to you, I'll just make sure that I am able to run the user command as well. I don't want to just stop now when we start. So that's why I'll just make it very sure before we move that. Mhm. Give me a second. Okay, so just give me a second. User for login. Okay, for login. That's login 2. It's just need keyword 4. Okay. Yeah, so I'll be just getting back to this. Is wonderful. Now I can see that what was going on. All right, so be ready. I'm just about to share, and I'm very sorry about this. All the time waste today that has been wasted today, but I hope that we'll try to just complete these things over here. Okay, first of all, I would open my PowerPoint presentation as well, and let me just show you that I've just created maybe these two. And again, I'm just connected to my Windows. I'll just show you, and I'll just do that. Or I'll just disconnect. I'll disconnect that one. So now everything is gone. And now I'll connect it with normal Windows authentication, normal Windows authentication. I've connected over here and I'm going to security and logins, and I'll just show you. So actually what's happening and where did I find that one? I'll show you that one. So there was this documentation that I found on the Microsoft. Actually, this is on the Microsoft and it's in the slides. I'll just share that with you. So look at that, create login. So the example over here of create login is, I'll just show you that the create login example over here. So actually we need to create login with a password. It's not like, we will be just creating with that one. So we give a with password is equal to, and we can just create a new login. So for example, if I just come back over here and I say over here, I say create login, and again, I have to give the login name. So I'll give the login name, for example, as I was just, mentioning that, for example, I would like to say the name of, Alan Smith, for example, and with password is equal to, we need to enter a password. So I'll not enter a very difficult password over here. So hello world is our password. And if I just run this command, look at that. It runs successfully. And if I refresh my logins, you'll find out that this Alan Smith user is already there. Make sense, everyone? So it's actually, we don't need to use that with Windows. We are not, we can just create user like that, create login like that. And as I said, let me open up the PowerPoint presentation that we have before I just make another thing over here. So Spring 2024 lectures, and here is lecture 10. Look at that. So we have just created a login with password. And again, this user has this password hello world. And that is something that we have to just keep in mind, because while we will be just making this user, this login user, Alan Smith, we'll just create a user over there. So we'll use that same password to log into the database, and then we can work with that one. So let me just show you that. So, over here, so this is basically, instead of making that Windows, we just create a user ID, login with the password, or we can just mention that, so it's actually, we are creating, how foolish I was. We were just trying to create a Windows password, and Windows password means that it has to be in the Windows authentication area. But for SQL Server, the one that we are talking about, we have to create for that one. So create login and the name of the user with password is equal to whatever password, and we can just also mention default database. So that user or that login will be created for that particular database. So if I come here and if I show you, if I go to my databases and I show you the database AP, that would be quite an interesting thing over here, because you know that those, so if I open this my AP database, you see that it has got this security option. If I come over here and if I look at, for example, the users with that one, so you see that these are DBO, there's a gas, there's the information schema, there's all those kind of things. So I'll just talk about what I'll just create another user over here, and for the default database, why not if I just access with the default database? So I just come here and what I'll do, I'll just take it from here, right? So let me create a user, create login. And again, I'll create John Doe, for example, John Doe, and with password equal to, let's keep it very simple again, hello, just hello, right? And look at that in our PowerPoint, what we have seen. With password is equal to this, and after comma, default database AP. So I'm just creating for that, for default, and default underscore database equal to AP. Right? So let's see that. How does it go? There is a wrong syntax. Maybe I've just not used that one. Default underscore database equal to AP. Okay. Oh, AP should, it's not a string, right? It's the name of the database. Okay, so now let's come back over here and run that. And now you see that I have created a John Doe login for database AP. So if I come in AP and if I just refresh that, for example, and if I go to its security and if I go to the user or the roles, it should be in the roles, or it should be in the, let me just see that. It's a login that we have created. So it has to be inside. Let's find out where security policies, not here. Database roles, it's the roles over here, and application roles. There is no application role over here. And if I just refresh that, sometimes it needs a refreshing as well. Let's see if it comes up with something. So we have just created a login. So login can be created specifically for for the database and for those things. So again, we can just create that typically as we have just seen over here for a database as well. And we'll look at that shortly. So passwords cannot be blank or cannot be, this one we have just already talked about. When you create a login, we create new SQL Server login or the create new login ID from Windows account. This is statement introduced in SQL Server. If you don't specify a default database, that's a very interesting fact over here. Don't specify a database over here. What happens? I'll just show you. So, so the default is the master one. So it goes to the master one unless it doesn't change. The password you specify SQL Server login ID should be strong password. It has to be strong one. If you change must change option, then it will always change that. And also the expiration policy. So these can happen. Now this same goes with the users over here. When we want to create the users, we it's first of all dropping the login. So again, we know that we can just drop all these logs in over here. And it is not basically over here. We'll just see that. So if I just come here and I say, for example, drop login, I say drop login, and I say Alan Smith, right? So let's see that if it just goes there and it executes that one. And if I go to my security again, we had this Alan Smith. If I refresh this login, you see that the Alan Smith is basically gone. And the same way we can just delete that one as well, the John Doe. Let's see if I can just drop it from here. Drop it, login, John Doe. Let's do that. So So it's completed, and this John Doe will be again deleted. We are unable to see that over there, but let's do that. So that is for secret authentication. We can alter that one. We can change that one. We can change the password. So alter login John Doe with password. Alter login. We want to disable that one, and alter login John Doe with name is equal to. We can just change the name of the person. Drop login, and we can just do a lot of things. So users, again in the same way when we create the users, we have these users. So again, I'll show you that particular documentation for the user as well over here, how to create the user, because that would also be another observation that we'll just do that, how to create the user. So let's go back to users. And here is the syntax of creating users, and I'll just definitely directly go to its syntax or its example. Let's go to the example and let's see how they want us to create the users. So again, we can create the users for the domain as well, or we can, what we can do is that we can create a database user with a general user first of all, like this one. So if I create this one, for example, I come here and if I create a general user, and why not? It's a very difficult name. I would like to change that to Alan, for example, and password is very difficult. I don't want that the password. I want a hello password. Let's create this. Oh, this was the login. They have created login. Sorry. It is the login, and okay. So for that particular login, we can create a user as well. That like this. So actually, we have got the login, and what login we have John Doe, for example, right? And for this John Doe, I want to create the user. So I'll just come here and I'll write there, create user, for example, John. Let's create John because that from the login John Doe. And I can create John Doe as well, why not? For login John Doe, let's create that one. So John Doe is not valid. Why? Because I deleted that one. Remember everyone, I dropped that one. Let me just create that. It would be created, hopefully. Why you are taking so long now? Interesting. Now it's taking a long time. Why? It should not take that much time. Okay, 34 seconds. Then it's still counting. Okay, what I can do is I just created these test logins as well. Why not? If I can, oh yeah, that is stopped now. Query was cancelled. Of course, we canceled that one. Now, why not? If I create a user John Doe for my test login user, you see that I can just do that for the test login. So can I create a test login user over here? If I create a test login user and the username is John Doe, for example. So now this test login, it should have this user being defined. So if you look at that one, if I just go to the documentation, so it has just created for a login, typical login user. So what are the change to a user driver, for example, SQL Server, UAE Adventure Work 22 statement in Azure. So we create the users for the particular domain, a particular ID. So in the same way, because we have same name, the John Doe and John Doe. Maybe yes. So we can just change that one. So create login, something with password, use database, create user, this one for default schema marketing. So that is specifically for certificates. There are certain one, creating and using a user without a login. If without a login, if you want to create that user, we can just create a particular user on database, and that it does not have any login or anything attached to that one. So that is also, just to create the users from login, or we can just, use that one without typical that one. So create user John Doe, as we have create user Show Roberts for login. Again, the login that we created, if we were able to create that in our accounting / Susan Roberts, because that was, Windows authentication problem that was coming up. So we have not created that one, and I'll have to look into that one. Why I cannot create that one? That I'll just, find out for you guys. So then in the same way, we have the schemas. What are schemas? As you know, the table views, functions, and procedures of table are stored in schemas. So everything they actually go into the schema. Schema is just like a structure structure, and that typically, we show that what are the different structures. So one advantage of using schemas is that you can grant permissions to all of the objects in a schema by granting permissions to the schema. So we just grant the permission to the schema and it is goes to the everyone, right? Another advantage is that user don't own database objects. They own schemas. Because of that, if you need to delete a user, you can just transfer the schemas to the user owns to another, rather than having to transfer ownership of each individual. So again, the schema ownership is easy to transfer rather than the ownership of an object. So that is why we feel that we say that we can actually check. Typically, we can just transfer schema more easily, right? So let's see that. The syntax of create schema statement: create schema, schema name, authorization, owner name. We can just write down the owner name as well. And also we can just alter the schema wherever we want. We can just alter the schema in that way. We'll just look into that one as well. Let's see if you the example. A statement that create a schema and a table within that schema. So schema marketing and table context is being created over here. Let's see this. Let's try to cope up with this example. Let's come up with this example. We'll create a schema and the table with that one. So let me just keep it over here. And I'll just take that slide from here. Right, so let's create a schema with that one. I come here and I say create schema. So marketing, for example, and then create table contacts. So again, contact ID. And it should be int, it should be not null, and it should be identity and primary key. Again, all those features that we want to look into that one. And contact name should be variable character length of 50, and name should not null. Contact phone varchar 50 null. Contact email varchar 50 and null. Again, it can be null, right? So let's leave that one. So now let's create that schema. Okay, is there line number 17? It says after the comma. Did I miss anything? Not null. I think it's correct. Or maybe, yeah, I don't know why it was just giving an error. Right, so it has created a schema. So if we just talk about this schema, it's basically the schema is what, if I just show you. If I just go back for a particular one. So, as we have talked about, the table functions and procedures of database are stored in a schemas. If you don't specify schema, when you create these objects, they are stored in the default schema. So there's a default schema. We'll see that. One advantage of using schemas is that you grant permissions to all that, all the objects in that schema by granting permissions to the schema. So we'll just, create the schema and we can just grant permission. So we have created one schema. So first of all, they just showed the schema with the the author or owner name. And then what we have done, we have just created this one. And if you want to alter that schema, accounting, transfer, marketing. So, we will just, transfer this tables, the tables, authentication or schema to that accounting table. So, it's right now in its marketing one. So take out the context from this marketing. From marketing schema, take out the context and alter that with the accounting. And you can just drop schema from the marketing. I don't want the marketing schema anymore. So schema has been transferred. So that is basically typically the schema that we are working with. Now, how to work with permissions. Let's talk about how to grant user permission to work with database and the object it contains. So the syntax of grant statement for object permissions is, if you look at that, grant permission, and then we just, specify that one. So we just, give the permissions to our typical users to typical things. So, basically what we do is that with grant option, we can just do that. A grant statement grants select permission for the invoices table. So look at that. Grant select on invoices to Susan Roberts. So again, if we just permit that one, it will be allowed. So if I just come over here, and if you look at that one, for example, we have created this John Doe, for example, user. And if I want to grant this permission, so if I say grant, look at that, grant select, right? So if I say grant select, and to which I want to do that, I want to on which table. So for example, if we are in the AP table, let's talk about the AP table, and I'll just go into the AP table for that one. And there must be an invoices table over there. Let's do that. So I'll say on invoices, right? On invoices, we have just transferred that one to Susan Roberts. So what we do we want to just give that to basically John Doe. Right, so grant select inverse, and we'll see that permissions, what can be different permissions over there. So it says I cannot find the user John Doe because it does not exist, or you don't have the permission to just do that. And let me just see that we are in AP, and why it is not granting that one, because it says that it may does not exist. So let me see that if the user exists. Now it is exists. If I just run that one. Yeah, so it was not existing at that time. So now it has granted the select. So look at that. So we grant like this. If we grant a permission, it means that we are typically how to revoke the object permission. The syntax of revoking statement for object permissions, we can just do revoke grant option for permission, and from the database. So revoke select from invoices for Susan Roberts. So again, we want to just take away that facility that was given to Susan Roberts user, and we just revoke that one and access that one. So now look at that. What is that? What is the permissions over here? Select lets the user select the data, table views, and table viewed valued function. Update, let the user update table views, table valued. Insert, we know that. Delete, to delete existing data, and all the execute, let the user execute procedure or function. So again, for execute permission, we can just allow a user or not. Stored procedure, scalar, and aggregate functions, all those are executable. References, let the user create objects that refer to the object, tables, views, and functions, and we can just do that one. And then alter, let the user modify an object, tables, procedure, function, and sequence. It will just able to just do that one. A grant statement grant permission to run action queries. So now we'll talk about the action queries. What action? Grant, insert, update, delete all invoices to Susan Roberts. And again, revoke, delete, just take out the delete option from that one, from Susan Roberts. So Susan Roberts will not be able to just delete that one. You know what I mean? So it would be just, mentioning that. A grant statement that grants permission to execute a stored procedure. Grant execute on SP invoice report that we might have to payroll / Mark Thomas, John Doe, and Tom Aaron. So again, we are just specifying that this is a domain user, payroll Mark Thomas, and then there's John Doe, then there's Tom Aaron. So give them permission to execute these this typical one, right? So a grant statement that grants select permission to specific columns. Now this is very interesting. We can specify that which columns can be selected for a particular user, and that really gives us the power that a user will not be able to just do that. So let's do that one for example right now over here. Grant select on vendors. So we'll just do that. Grant select on vendors, vendor name, and vendor address one. Let's do that. These two to that particular user that we have created. So we'll just come over here, and I'll say grant select on, let's say we do that on invoices, and I'll have to just look into all the fields of invoices just for the reason. So invoice ID, vendor ID, invoice number. Let's do that one, right? So we'll just allocate to the three fields like in the brackets, what we'll just mention. So invoice ID, comma, vendor ID, comma, invoice number. Right? Get and select on these three and to John Doe. Right? For example, if we just say to John Doe. Invalid column name, invoice ID. It says that it's an invalid column name. Why isn't that word? Invoice ID. Oh, spelling mistake. All right. So it's just now it has just selected that one, and the user like John Doe is now able to on that one. So if you look at that, I was telling you, because this John Doe user that we have created is basically, it's a typically, if you just look at that one over here, if I just show you security, where is the logins? If you refresh that one. So it's not here. It should be somewhere in our AP, for example, because we created that in AP, right? So AP, database diagram tables, and security. These are all the rules, and application rules is empty. Where do you find these users' names over here? Let me just, oh, this is the users, right? And yeah, so it's John Doe is over here in the users, right? So this John Doe is basically, this is the user that is. So if it, it's basically a user that we have this John Doe, and John Doe has typically, some like rights that we have just given over here. So it has been created for that one. So it will only be able to select, like, the John Doe will be able to select that typical one. So we'll just come back to this one when we'll do the login over here. So how to grant or revoke schema permissions? In addition to granting revoking permissions on individual objects in a database, you can grant or revoke permissions to all objects in a schema. To do that, use the formats grant and revoke statements over here. Now, so how to grant permissions, schema permissions? The syntax of grant schema statement of schema permissions. This is basically how to just grant permission on schema. So grant alter on schema marketing to Jodel, for example, on the schema marketing, I'm allowing someone or grant update on the schema to John Doe, and it can just work on that particular schema which we have just defined. And how to revoke the schema permission? The syntax of revoke statement of permission, revoke grant option for permissions, and we can just revoke the update on schema and accounting. So we can just do that. Typically, how to grant or revoke the database permission. This is very important. And what I'll do today, I'm just feeling we have so much disturbance today. So I'm stopping at slide number 27 today, and I'll just mark it over here because I'll start it from this on the next week. So I'll just continue with this lecture for the next week because today we had a lot of disturbance, and I'll try to just come up with all those solutions and everything. So I will be stopping here today, and I'll just mention this slide number 27 we have stopped at. So today, for today, I'm just stopping over here. And if you guys have any questions, you can just go ahead. Or if you don't have any questions, we'll just stop here, and we will just go with this. I'll continue with these slides for the next week as well. So this will become for 2 week slides, right, Hitesh? So I'll just continue from here, and I'll share this one with that one. So this code as well, the script code as well with that one. So thank you very much everyone for joining in today. And I'm sorry about all the disturbance that has happened today. Shahana, thank you. And I'll try to just make all those things up for the next week. Right. Thank you very much and enjoy your day. And I'd like to see you next week now. Oh, by the way, about the test. So test is not today. It was supposed to be today, but it's not today. And I would definitely try to just give something to you. I'll just send a message for that one, right? Thank you very much and enjoy your day.